what limits could I push in chemistry to a point where it still makes sense, but it's different. I was literally about to get up and tell the pilot to turn the plane around. The minute you feel like you figured everything out, you are so far behind.
A couple of years ago at AgriTrade in Red Deer, I met Melissa Werkema. It took me a couple of minutes of conversation to realize I was on a different floor of the skyrise of intellect than she was, specifically several floors below. Specifically, several floors below. And I don't often feel that. I host smart people for a living. I sit across from advisors, brokers, scientists, and founders every week. And I'm pretty comfortable in those rooms, but this was a little bit different. It was kind of a jarring sensation. Melissa is the founder of Future Analytics Inc. in Red Deer, Alberta. 7 years into a plant sap analysis lab she built from scratch. She trained for 3 years at the Weizmann Institute in Israel, came back to Canada, lost, put her own house on the line as collateral, and built one of the few labs in this country measuring what your plants are actually accessing in real time, not what is in the soil. What is making it into the leaf? What is making it into the leaf? Only she knows, and a very few other people knows. Some of her clients have saved a lot of money. So let's just say large amounts of money, 40 to 60K in fertilizer. It could be more. It's variable in a single growing season, not by buying more, by knowing what the plant actually needs. And who doesn't want this in this time of Strait of Hormuz closure and inflation and all that good stuff? This counts now. This counts now a lot. She's not selling a product. She deals in clarity. I wanted to know how a kid figured out at 9 years old that she had a chemistry brain. What 3 years at the Weizmann Institute actually looks like. What it felt like to come home and not know what to do with herself, and what it took to build a company alone with no investors, with her own house on the line. Hopefully she's not homeless. We're going to find out on today's episode. Melissa, welcome to Growing the Future podcast.
Thank you. I didn't realize you met me in Red Deer already. Did you legit meet me in person?
I didn't make that story up, and it's notable that you don't remember me.
I'm so
I was
sorry.
in the booth in the corner of your room, and I was in the Abrahart Ag Solutions booth, and we got talking about elemental sulfur.
Oh boy.
And I was given my
Uh-oh.
biosol pitch, and all of a sudden, I was like, oh, I'm talking to somebody here that whew, she's a little more scientific than the average person I'm talking to at the trade show, put it that way. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to go any further down that rabbit hole. I think we'll just, agree to disagree. I'm going to, because you had some different thoughts about elemental sulfur, which we could certainly get into.
Mm.
And we're going to, and just for a caveat here, folks, Melissa and I's intent, if we get there, if we live long enough, we just had to talk about longevity before we got started here, but she told me I can't live past 120, which we could get into.
It's a Jewish law. Nobody can beat Jewish law.
Okay. If it's Jewish law, then I'll have to really strongly consider that. But my goal is 189. My stretch goal is 240. So I said I could live long enough to write her big book, because she said the book would be big. But we can get into elemental sulfur and all that good stuff. But I wanted to start with the long form story, because you and I, we're going to do who you are and your backstory, and this will help me get a context. And then we're going to share you with the world by doing a live briefing with the Growing the Future audience on an agronomic key topic. And by that, we're going to then go into the Growing the Future Mastermind and really teach folks that are invested to join and interact. And I guess we reconnected. For you, it was the first time meeting me coming into the Growing the Future Mastermind. For me, it was the second time connecting with you. A little asymmetrical there, but that's okay. I probably did, I got to work on being more memorable, Melissa.
Yeah, well, I meet and talk to too many people too, so don't take it personally.
I'm a little heartbroken. I'm going to need some time to recover. But I
And I've
remembered
also
you.
been to Israel again. I've been to Ukraine. I've been back to BC. I've been a lot of places, so don't take it personally.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try and recover, and we'll work through it in therapy this
I'll
week.
remember
And
this one though.
yeah, well, I hope so. Unless you get touring around the world and start forgetting again. But let's start at the beginning. I don't know if we need to go back any further than 9 years old, but I think 9 years old is a lot. How does one know that you have a chemistry brain at 9 years old?
I was downstairs and I remember finding a periodic table. It was in a textbook. First page, you open up a textbook, you'll see the periodic table. And I didn't really know exactly what it meant, obviously, at that point, but I was just fascinated that life could be put into a table. And I wanted to learn more on because chemistry is life. And I thought there's got to be a combination between not just calcium or not just sodium or every element on the periodic table. I just wanted to learn more. And it fascinated me how there's different reactions. You could do chemistry in so many different fields, like even in ag alone in the testing done. You can just one simple change of an acid or a base or anything that you add can just drastically change the chemistry form, what you're looking at. So just understanding these different pathways of where it can get us to, that ultimately each pathway just brings us back to the periodic table. And that just fascinated me to learn more.
At
Yeah.
9, I was very concerned with what toy was coming in the cereal box. I wasn't looking at the elemental table like a map of life. When did you put that together? You're just reflecting that that's what you saw then, but you didn't know. Did you know it was a map of do you see it as a map of life at 9?
I knew it held a huge significance to understanding a lot in everyday life. And I think what intrigued me most, I've always been very different as I am right now. I've always been the adventurous, just out there wanting to learn more, different things than your average person just wants to learn. And I think what intrigued me the most was what limits could I push in chemistry to a point where it still makes sense, but it's different. I've always wanted to be different in the things that I did, even coming down to how I started education from Alberta born girl, grew up on a farm. The common thing after high school is to go to U of A or U of C or NAIT or SAIT. You just stay within Alberta. And odd one out, I decided to go to BC. And from there, it started just at 19, starting with the Chem Tech diploma. You get to know people in your class and they find out I'm from Alberta. And clearly, the first question is, why did you not go to school in Alberta? And I'm
Yeah,
just,
what are you doing here?
I didn't
Are
want
you
anything
lost?
to do with industry. I didn't want the oil and gas. I didn't want any of that. And maybe it's just human nature to think something is better from a different province, or I just felt like the plants, the everything in BC just fit better. So
The
yeah,
plants.
just everything in BC, like maybe more of my hippie days as well, fit the narrative
Hippie
at
days.
19.
There's probably some stories there. Well, and it's funny
Lots of
because
stories.
mostly Saskatchewan people went to Alberta at that time, although I think you're quite a bit younger. But there's probably a little bit of a culture shock from Alberta to BC. Hey,
Just a lot bigger. I loved it though. Like it started just being away on my own. I just had to be on my own, learn different things, just take my own perspective on everything. What I did know for sure though is I wanted the chemistry. So instead of taking a degree, I was going to take a chemistry degree from a university, but a professor here at Ridger College, I was impatient after high school and I registered for a first year university organic chemistry course at RDC just because I was bored. So I started there, and a professor there noticed my lab skills. And he said, I think just to get you in the lab right away, and to get you understanding all the instruments, what they mean, what they could tell you, the interpretations on the data, I think it's best you take a Chemtech diploma. And at that point, clearly a diploma is often looked down upon of, well, why would you take 2 years when you could take a fancy 4-year degree and have a chem degree behind you? So I at first shunned it. And he said, well, understand part of why I even went to BC as well. I looked into the programs, and what I found was university courses were 4 courses per semester with some labs, whereas BCIT was 8 courses with all labs, all chemistry. So took the challenge on and literally just got thrown into a program of pure chemistry, like analytical, with all the labs combined. So the journey started there for sure. And I think just me being in BC on my own and learning everything, I didn't know where it was going to get me, but I was still learning more about the periodic table.
Well, I have a couple things I'm really curious about. I guess is one is your farm life, the framework around that, and that how that influenced you and what you saw on the farm. And then secondly, I'm really curious about the nature of your intellect, and how you recognize it, or how you are like, how self-aware are you, what kind of intellect it is, in what way are you very smart? So maybe you want to start with the farm, and then we could dig deeper into how you're so smart.
I'm
Sounds
thinking
like
not
some of
smart.
that. I don't know. It's like, but you're talented in a certain area, right? Let's recognize that, when it comes to chemistry, it sounded like you're exceptional. So what is that?
I think it's just
You
more
know?
of like,
Have you thought about it?
I felt comfortable, like the things I was learning in chemistry, I just felt comfortable with it. But I think the biggest thing was just wanting to be different. That's what kept driving me to like push these limits that I like the average person just doesn't. Like, who hops on a plane after school on their own again for the first time to Israel? To Because I've been there, I was there once before for 6 months on an archaeological dig for residue analysis. And then from there, I just met contacts. Everybody just kept noticing my lab skills and just how good I was with the instruments and the interpretation of data. Just taking a different perspective, which in Israel is a lot of research. So you get a brain like that, with different interpretations, and it just continues to feed. And yeah,
So
but on the
you,
farm,
yeah, coming from the farm, so it wasn't immediately apparent that you were going to be in the farming lab because you were doing archaeology as an interest in history as well.
no, like it was all I knew was I wanted chemistry. That's it. I never thought I would end up in ag. It was just I was always after that different perspective, but I didn't know if it was more pharmaceutical or ag or engineering, or I didn't know. All I knew was I wanted to be in a lab and I wanted to learn as much chemistry as I possibly could. And that's the fascinating part of where life ended up taking me. Because most kids just grow up on a farm and they're like, I want to take over the farm and I want to do this. That wasn't me at all. The only thing, it was just one step at a time where I knew I wanted to leave Alberta. And I started at BC and it just took off from there. But I never knew that. I didn't even know I would have my own company. Like,
Is
that was
that just
never even.
necessity? You just to do what you felt you needed to do, you just realized, yeah, I'm gonna have to have my own company.
Yeah, well, that was after Israel and after learning so much, which is the heart of the company that's coming now, with digging deeper into what is actually inorganic matter, rather than a percent. Right now, percents are given, but I want to know what that is and how it's degrading in an anaerobic state or an aerobic state, knowing the lignin contents. There's so many other things in there. That was the heart of what we did at the Weizmann, in Israel. And when I came back, which I didn't want to come back, and I still want to go back there, I always say half of me is there and half of me is here. I'm always split between. I tried working and a lab didn't work out at all. Just not I was not happy when I came back, like at all.
Are you
And
one of
I've
those
shared it with the
entrepreneurs who doesn't make a
employees.
great employee?
No, no. I well, and it's just that industry, like you, I've just like constantly stepped outside of the box and wanted to be different. And I achieved that a lot through being in Israel to then coming back and like trying to fit me inside of a box again. And it just, I remember telling my mom, I feel suffocated. Like I can't, it just feels like the life is being sucked out of me. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know who I was. Like coming back from Israel was a very, very hard transition period because I spent close to 10 years on my own. Um,
Mm.
the first little bit, about 4 years in BC, studying, and then I did work in a lab there, which was an independent lab, which I'm glad I had that experience to feel that independence. And then I got the offers to go to Israel 2 separate times. So I was literally on my own for close to 10 years, just going back and forth and learning and traveling and doing everything to then having that door shut on me way faster. Even I had everything lined up at the Weizmann to work there, to study there. Professor Steve so wants me there to then, and that's a whole personal side, obviously, with why I was basically forced to come back. Um,
Can you tell that
yeah.
story? That sounds juicy.
that,
Why did you have to
yeah,
do
well,
anything? You sound like a free
people might
bird.
cry though. So,
Well, they
and
should
that's
cry. They want to cry. That's why people go to sad movies. It's what they paid money for. They want to feel that.
I'll basically say I looked one look out the plane. My mom had to book the ticket because I refused to book the ticket. And when I went there, keep in mind the second offer that I got, I only packed a backpack. Like
You
I
weren't
didn't
coming
bring
back.
luggage. I literally brought my chemistry textbooks, a few pairs of clothes, and that's it. Like I showed up with like one of those backpacker backpacks, and that's all I had. And even when I first got there, I'll always remember Steve, the professor at the Weizmann I was working under. He invited me over for dinner at his place once I got over jet lag. And his wife looked at me and said, "So, how long is Melissa here for?" And I thought it was initially for 6 months. And I looked at him and it was kind of like, see how it goes. In other words, if it goes really well, she's going to be here for a while. Or it could be a complete crash and fail, and I'm going to send her home next week. Like it could be either one. And so a 6 months turned into 3 years. Um, yeah. And I just leaving to just give you a glimpse of how down in the pits I was. I think it's the hand of God. I had all three seats empty next to me. I sat at the window seat. I forced myself to look at Israel one last time before leaving. The minute I was in the plane, I was literally about to get up and tell the pilot to turn the plane around because I did not want to leave. Like there's a huge piece of me there still. And I grabbed all three blankets, all three pillows from the seats. I curled up and I just cried. I
Well, it's
cried
still
for,
there, Melissa. It's still there.
I know, but see, I'm already tearing up. So then, and Israeli was also, he was on the plane and he stopped on the way down and he asked me if I was okay. And I legit said, no, no, I'm not. And he sat behind me, kind of like, well, this poor girl needs something. And I came home. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was, like I said, I was lost. I learned so much on my own, but it was such different information that I knew if I went to the average person and just like you, I went up and I'm talking all this stuff. I knew if I got to the heart of it, of what I just came through, that nobody would be able to connect with me. And then I I I just didn't know what to do. I knew that no other lab job would fulfill what I had just learned on my own throughout these 10 years. Um, and then by luck, the good old Jewish luck, I found out our greenhouses in Alberta. I was planning on doing the soil first through the company. Um, and I thought the only way I'm going to save myself, and I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to start my own company because I was determined to find a way to bridge a gap between Canada and Israel. And I thought the only way I'm going to do that is to make my own company. And I just literally threw myself in to like everything on the line, like my home, like in the beginning, I was driving a very old Toyota Echo car, a little two-door, like just the bare minimum. And I had blankets here. I would sleep at work just to get reports out. But I was determined because, and the more I was starting the company, I could feel myself starting to come alive. Like it was starting to come together, and the more time goes on, the more, and now with this piece coming with the organic fraction, part of the instruments, the pieces are coming from Israel uh, with the new instrument. So the more I go along with the company, the more I feel like this gap is getting closer and closer, where I'm still in communication with Steve, my professor, more so now because he's helping out a lot with the organic fraction. Um, and the more time goes on, the more I feel like who I was in Israel, and I was very happy there. I'm starting to feel that here. And it only took 7 years
Oh,
to
well,
start to
what is it about
finally feel.
Israel? What is it? Because you've made all these Jewish references and you talk about it constantly. Was it the learning? Is it the place? Is it the people? Is it the culture? Do I've heard of people converting. Are you? And I'm fascinated. I would love. I mean, I would have loved to gone over there, but it almost seems like right now maybe it's not the good time.
Well, the media definitely um yeah, makes it look way worse than what it actually is. I was actually writing a blog when I was there, and a lot of people ask me now to write a blog, and I'm just too busy now. But I tried to find it to just go back and like
During
read
the
on
time.
during the time that I was like the whole time I was there, I was writing a blog and just
Okay.
learning about the Palestinian Israeli conflict. There's some stories, yeah, I haven't told my mom clearly, where like
Oh
some
wow. Well,
places
she's
that
not
I've
listening, so
gone.
you can tell it on the podcast. No problem.
Well, Bethlehem, because it is the like the Palestinian end. When you're there, you learn firsthand just the dynamics going on rather than just hearing it from the news. So there's that dynamic, but honestly, and I remember writing in my blog when I definitely within the first week, I remember titling a blog titled The Land of Milk and Honey. And that was the best way I could describe, like, just inside, just inner, just happiness, content. Um, you're at the heart of everything there. And I just felt like everything that I learned in BC, of all the equipment, all the analytical end, the world was my oyster. In other words, like I didn't, I had the research project. It was to build up a reference library for plants and herbs connected to the soil for degradation in terms of aerobic and anaerobic. So it was a massive project. Um, so I think with my adventurous side of always wanting to be different, combined with I already had that foundation of understanding the equipment, to now I'm in Israel and I get to form myself of what I want to learn, given like a professor, like the Weizmann only accepts people starting at a master's level. Like it's not your average university that you go to. So to be given an opportunity to build up a reference library was that, combined with just being in the country. I mean, you're in your 20s, everything is at your feet. And I showed up with a backpack. I even booked a one-way ticket there. I had no return ticket home. So it was kind of like, I'm gonna make the absolute best time here. And and still to this day, those 3 years, I would give back to relive in a heartbeat. Like it. So then it was just that feeling of being there, combined with I did date an Israeli
Mm.
guy for a little over 2 years, and his family took me under their wing quite a bit. So it's not like here on every weekend, everything shuts down. There's Shabbat, Friday night to Saturday, all of the holidays. I was with his family. So really just immersed in the Jewish culture at that point of, you're speaking Hebrew at that point, you're taking part of the holidays, you're taking part of the Shabbat dinners. So at that point, when you're taking part in those things, in addition to my mom also found out her was Jewish when I was there. Sure, we still there.
Oh yeah, we had a little bit of skip in there. Just what you said you found out something about your family history?
My mom's line was Jewish when I was there. And they were searching for the paperwork. They got the paperwork. Um, yeah, which that leads into the whole Aliyah or citizenship in Israel. So it just seemed like things were clicking. I was taking courses in Hebrew at a university there while working and studying at the Weizmann. Like the world was literally at my fingertips. Dating an Israeli, immersed in the culture, you're studying, you're learning, you're traveling. Like it was just a dream come true. Like literally just a dream come true.
So I take it at
So
some point shit hit the fan, or there was
yeah,
some
well,
event, or
in Red Deer, there's not many rabbis.
oh, okay.
And because we have the paperwork to show my mom's line, I submitted it. Like I was going to become a citizen there. I submitted the paperwork, and one of the questions was a contact of a rabbi here, and I didn't have one, even though the bloodline was there, and they put it on hold and eventually rejected it until I had a rabbi here to know. So all it'll take here is for me to get into contact in Calgary or Edmonton with a rabbi, and I would be back in a heartbeat. But unfortunately,
So
I'm
it
a
was
company
logistics
now.
then. It was logistics. It was logistics. It was
Uh-huh.
logistics. Yeah.
So I was literally ripped out from, he was going to propose. He was like, it was a serious relationship. We fought, he like to lawyers, and yeah, we fought for it quite hard. Um, yeah, the morning he dropped me off at the airport, he got through the gates as far as he could go until we finally had to say goodbye. We did Zoom call and stayed in contact quite a bit when I got back, but eventually you just grow apart. And at that point, that's when I just didn't know. I honestly did not know what I was going to do, um, until the greenhouses came along. They, the greenhouses started to just awaken, like where, because I didn't even know like Alberta testing, like where guys were sending their soil, and just then the John Kemp started coming out, and like so farmers coming in here and just like glazed eyes of like, do you know John Kemp? And I'm like, no, I don't know who he is. Like I'm just kind of like learning to survive here. And the greenhouses I found in Alberta, through the Red Hat Co-op, and local ones here, Deuce, Skull Valley, and other greenhouses, they were sending weekly water to Ontario at SGS. And the one I was making my business plan for soil because I wanted to start off in that way. And a local grower through Gull Valley, Levi, he's like, well, can you test water? I'm like, like what a joke. Yeah, of course I can test water. Like if I can get into all these dynamics in soil and plants, then clearly I could test water. And then it was a matter of how fast I could get the equipment because they were like all the lab instruments, and they are like still a very special place in my heart. There were several times you start a company and people think you're in business and you have all the money in the world. You don't. Like
It's odd,
I,
isn't it? It's
I,
odd. Yeah.
yeah, and I guarantee you, I would not be here. And this is like pre-farmer days.
Yeah.
I was on my own. I would do the samples, send the reports, send the invoice like right after the reports. I would like pace the lab, and like maybe an hour would go by and I'd sit down and I knew a huge loan payment was coming out the next day. And like as garbage of a feeling as it was, I had to, like an hour after sending the invoice, I had to email them and say, like, is it possible to maybe get payment right now? Like, and that was legit. Like the first month was constant. I hope, like, here they come. And I know they were giving extra just to support, but it was this constant do the sample report, pay, do the sample reports, pay. Like, and that was, it was just a grind. Like, I don't know how I did it. And there was one morning, then I got Red Hat, the Red Hat Co-op. Fantastic growers in Medicine Hat. They reached out to me first and said, we heard you just started, we want to give you samples. And then it just snowballed from there. And middle of January in my little blue Toyota Echo car, I was driving all the way to Medicine Hat, so proud because I wanted those greenhouses so bad. Made the drive, and then yeah, was very supportive. So they definitely got me off my feet to break even, and then the farmer started.
Yeah. Well,
But it was
I'm just,
almost
you
yeah.
know, I can't get over your story about Israel, and I've always wondered about it. And to me, it's one of the most, obviously, it's one of the most ancient, mysterious, fascinating cultures on planet Earth. And I remember when we went to the World Agritech uh, show in San Francisco, and the amount of patents coming out of, like, 80% of the patents were coming out of Israel for new
Mhm,
technology. And I just thought, what
mhm.
is going on here? Like the amount of engineering. And so what is it? What is it, or what is it that we don't understand here? Like we get a picture, it's painted in the media. Obviously it's tainted. It's a product of capitalism, the news, what we see. But what was it for you that was so magical? Why is it a land of milk and honey for you?
It's the Jewish side of me. I don't know. From my mom's end.
Yeah.
Um, I honestly, I have no explanations for it. I just, the minute I'm there, I feel like I'm home. Like it just felt like my second home. Uh, and what's crazy is like I've flown there 4 times now. Every time, like I'm not nervous. I'm not, you just land and it's like, yeah, you know where to go. And I don't know. It felt, I think there was such a huge part of me too that just had to leave. Like I said, there was always that huge part, that adventurous side of me. And it wasn't just I'm gonna go on a camping or hiking trip in the mountains. It was like
Right.
it's just in me. Like I had to go, and there was nothing that was going to stop me. And ironically, Israel just it seemed good and far away,
Yeah.
where nobody could catch me, nobody could keep up with me. I was in my own world, and I think because I knew I was far away and in my own little bubble, that it just made me fully relax. As crazy as that sounds. And it feels crazy to say that now.
What I wanted to know was similar to my line of questioning on your intellect. What makes them smart? What kind of intellect is it? How are they so successful in these endeavors? Is it just a survival thing? I've always wondered because of the diverse circumstances where they forged in fire and they studied so hard just because it was a matter like we have to be good to survive the persecution through the ages. Is that what makes you evolve into a machine?
Yeah. And maybe it was that combination of I just strive to be so different all the time when and to be fully different, like legit different. You have to be independent and you have to figure things out on your own to become successful. In other words, don't rely on others for your success. Like just do it on your own. And my dad was a huge proponent of that too. Like he's a businessman, he has a woodworking shop.
Mm,
Um, just figure it out. You do your own thing and you figure it out. And
that's awesome.
like shut up, stop complaining, and just if you want to go get it. And I think that was a big driver for me as well. Um, but that combined with Israelis are very here, everybody claims to know it all. Like, everything about anything, they can give a comment about something. Whereas in Israel, they are very fine tuned. Like, they pick one subject and they obsess over it.
Mm.
Like the organic matter, like what causes the degradation? How does that connect? And it literally just becomes, and I think maybe that structure from my adventurous side was maybe the appealing part of literally, okay, here's this umbrella of what we could do within chemistry of the analytical side. But now we're literally, and Israel forced me to just like, okay, you're here and you're just going to focus on that and to just like perfect it. And they're still perfecting it, like to this point where like what I learned there, they've obviously gotten better with it, and that's why I need them for this new part coming in. But I think it was that I was given a goal rather than just always running and seeking the next adventure. I was given a goal and a task, and I knew how to approach it in terms of the instruments and like to build up the reference library, but the guidance of how that data comes together, I was given a goal to work with the professor on. So maybe that had a part to do with everything.
So you got your start in business, yeah, just on a wing and a prayer, like a lot of us do in the beginning. You're scraping together payroll, the rent, you know, um, something to stick in the microwave to nourish yourself, I'm sure.
Well, there was one
Scraping.
time I finished the damn like good grief, what did I eat? I remember it was like some cottage cheese and a yogurt. And it's like 10 o'clock at night. And there was even one morning right after I got the Red Hat Co-op, the greenhouses, there was one grower, he actually intimidated, and he still intimidates me a lot because he's a very smart grower.
Yeah.
Um, I was so like stressed after I got them. I'm like, I am like determined to get this report out the fastest I could. Turned out to be 1 o'clock in the morning on like the middle of the week. I think it was a Thursday morning. So we always get them Wednesdays, the greenhouse. It was Thursday morning. I remember hitting send on the email at 1 or 1:30 in the morning and thinking, there, you got your report. Now you have nothing against you. And I went to
Yeah.
visit them, I think a year after, and uh, he said, I get when you start a company how hard it is. He said, but they're always up early. They're in the greenhouse easily by 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
He said, when I sat down and I looked and I saw these water reports from you, he said, I looked at the time and I saw a little after 1 a.m. He says, the first thought that went through my head is this girl's going to make it, to the second, she's crazy.
It goes together.
Yeah. Like that, it takes that to start a company. It's hard.
So from greenhouses to working with producers, what is the difference there? How did that evolve and what is that like?
Everybody's different. Um, but the nice thing, I feel like everybody is under the same umbrella. So like what I'm trying to teach, like in terms of the ppm concentrations, not percent, reducing versus oxidizing chemistry and sap test, those are like new topics for everybody when they're all used to the regular tissue test, the pounds per acre. So everybody's under the same learning umbrella. Obviously characters are different to work with, but it's fun. I enjoy it.
Well, what is this learning umbrella? Because you are doing things slightly different, and I don't know how you'd quantify how different people are looking at the same problem in different ways. It's so interesting too how you could. And I find agronomy is so much about perspective and can be approached a million ways. And often a lot of them work in different ways. But you are specific and you're unique and you're independent. That's your independent. That's your MO.
Mhm.
What are you doing over there? What is going on over there, Melissa?
Well, maybe it's the one-minded, this is what I've learned, and I have had to just, there's a lot of, we have the best product, you got to listen to me,
Right.
we do things right, and maybe the experience at the Weizmann with just having it so obsessed over one thing, it's been a challenge. The biggest challenge I would say I've had, like, and it's okay, money was it in the beginning, not so much now, as the um staying focused. It's okay, that's nice, you have this product, but it's this constant, what is it? And do you need it? And seeing the data, and it's just sticking to the, what do you need, rather than we have the best product and please follow us, or I know it all, so listen to me. It's just, it's like cutting out noise and just staying focused. I think that's been the hardest, um, the hardest challenge, because everybody's going to sound like they know everything.
Hey,
Everybody's going to sound
you
like
talked to me at the
they,
trade show and I was giving you the whole pitch on our product and you're like, well,
yeah,
actually,
whatever.
yeah, you were. And
Yeah.
I was kind of like, whoa, like I was very taken aback, a little bit intimidated too, because I obviously the way that we would reduce things or simplify it, and I still believe in biosol just from what we've seen on the farm. You'll never, and then all the millions of acres that we did and whatever anybody ever says about it. I mean, we just experienced great, but you know, it was to me, I could see how you were bombarded with people trying to convince you of what is classified in the industry as snake oil, because if they can have a smart young lady validate them, hallelujah, hallelujah, yippee ki let's go. Melissa says it's good because they will pick up the phone and talk to Melissa, and it's like, well, you ain't gonna argue with Melissa. Let's be
Well, and I always say, present me with the facts. Like if somebody can come in with data and show, we, this is what we were starting with, this is what we added in terms of ppm, this is our results, this is the yield. The minute I see connecting points through data, then that starts to build the trust in me. But when somebody comes in here and it's constant, they come in here and they're like, look at the picture where one line is green and the other line is just regular. It's like, well, great. Like, great that it looks more green, but did it have extra yield? Was the quality better? What did the data show? Like, show me something of substance rather than just, or the size of the roots or the color of the crop. It's like,
yeah.
that does nothing
You're
for
not a
me.
lady impressed
So
by the size of a man's roots.
like, if the data with the roots goes together, perfect, then we'll use the picture. But
Yeah.
don't try to flatter me because it's not going to work.
Damn.
That
Damn.
you can thank the Israelis maybe for that one and just or my dad. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and Lord knows many sweet talking snake oil salesman's come and gone.
Yeah,
Myself
and
included.
you're
But
right. Like I was bombarded a lot, and I still am with a lot of products on the market. Where I feel like there was a point where like it's not that I was putting them down, but I'm critical. I'm critical because I want to prove it until I see it. I don't want to just say, yeah, go and add this much because I heard it's good. Um, and I feel like some took me the wrong way, where because I'm critical of a fertilizer or these products, that I'm not for a fertilizer or I'm not for a product. And that was not, and that's never where I come from. It's I believe, and that's where, a lot have said there needs to be that balance. There needs to be the intake of the nutrients. You can't just wish on a hope and a prayer that everything is there. But
well, I experienced that. And I remember thinking, I don't care how smart she is. I don't care what she says. Like, she's not talking me out of this thing that I know works. And maybe, she's beyond me scientifically, but I was like trying to hold steadfastly to my belief. And maybe it was just that you were, I'll never forget, you were very assertive. And then you started getting super passionate. I'm like, trigger warning. I'm cornered in the booth here. And this girl
in the
started to,
booth, she's
pop
got a
off about
stick.
elemental
What do I do?
sulfur. Like,
She's
whoa.
holding a
Yeah.
stick.
She's not buying anything.
I'm out.
And she's confrontational about the science. Let's just wrap it up and move on to, let's talk to this Hutterite over here. Maybe he wants some of my fertilizer,
He looks nice.
Yeah, a lot
I'm gonna go
safer.
talk to
A
him.
lot safer. But I
Yeah.
was like, oh, wow. I was like, oh, and it was interesting because, but it probably is fair if you were around, well, first of all, growing up, Alberta style, and then, you go to Israel for 10 years, you're pretty, probably fairly assertive by nature or cultured.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm against these things. I'm just constantly trying to come from the perspective of, do you need it? And if you need it and you really want to use a product, then know how to use that product, because there's too much of, I've heard about this product, I've seen the pictures, I've heard good things, to I'm going to go full in, I'm going to add all these pounds per acre, and I didn't see any result, I didn't see anything happen, so it's a bad product and I'm just going to move on. It's like, well, there's a huge gap in there to, like, maybe just understand if it works for you or if you need it. So that's more of where I keep trying to come from, but I think sometimes it comes across the wrong way.
Well,
I'm not
there
against
is.
fertilizer.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about like your story and stuff, but and we do need to get to the end of this, but funny enough, or I'm grateful that I think our journey's just beginning, because I really want to tell your story and I really want to share with the world your gifts, your talents, and where you're coming from, because I think producers need it. But how is it that you help producers, and what is it that you most can offer them with your solutions and your approach and your service?
For right now, it's the fine tuning. And my dad has actually been the biggest example.
Mm.
And ever, it just dawned on me like last month. I've been testing for him. I know, like,
Well,
head
maybe
in
we
the
need to get him to
sand,
do a
right?
testimonial
I
here.
I know. My dad's supportive from day one. He's like,
Yeah.
I want to get heavy into the granular NPK with a bunch of micros. Didn't understand why. Just sign the check. Here we go, and just it's what we need. Growing good crops for sure. My dad's always been a good farmer. To all of a sudden he wanted to try some cover crops, to he has cattle, and just trying different things. To I did the soil testing. I've been doing the soil testing for like 4 years now. Did it the first year, never phased on me. And then it's been 2 years in a row now, where he's cut out, uh, he's all liquid right now. So it's given me the opportunity to just play with ppm numbers. His fertilizer bill, what he was paying before, like crazy numbers. Even I thought it was crazy. Now it's just fine tuning. Like we do the soil, um, see what he needs from there, and then a lot of foliar applications of things.
Hmm.
And last year was the big one. Um, it was pretty dry in the fall. Like we had a lot of moisture in the beginning, quite dry towards the fall. And yet he got 3 cuts of hay off, and the third cut was actually the highest of quality. And we came in with the copper, sulfur, boron, and all these extra things. And it was the second year in a row where his quality came up in the hay. The cattle are doing better. Um, and it took me 2 years to realize. And then I finally asked him, I'm like, well, how much are you like, are you saving? Is it more? Like, because I'm not paying attention to the bill. I'm just telling dad what he needs. And he's like, it's substantially less. I don't want to say how much less, but it's less than half.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit, but it's
That's
more
the biggest bill
time.
on the farm. I mean, what's your average fertilizer bill right now?
Yeah, like, and we have things on backup, like he keeps nitrogen, he keeps everything on backup, but it's more of what do you need? It's a tailored approach to doing the soil, doing the sap, seeing how effective these applications have been, and then rather than applying something, spending the money on, there's so much money spent on products or units now that people don't want to pay for a simple soil or sap test. Like they're just putting all faith in these products or whatever and not understanding why. So I think it's a combination of understanding the why and coming in with a tailored approach.
It is kind of wild as a percentage what soil testing and tissue testing, and I don't know about sap analysis, is as a percentage of your bill. And it's almost easier to hit the easy button and just pour on the coal and just get it shipped,
Yeah.
and I get it. But are you providing service? Like, tell me about where SAP analysis fits in from the pantheon of soil testing and tissue testing.
So the tissue is going to be the total amount of what's there, whereas the SAP test is like a blood test. This year, with the new instrument, what a SAP test right now, if it's done properly, is just the xylem SAP. So there's the xylem and the phloem SAP in the plant. Right now, the traditional SAP test is just the xylem, but this year we'll be incorporating the phloem SAP as well. So there will be targets for the xylem, targets for the phloem. So we could just see more complex. That's where your enzymes come into play, your proteins, more carbohydrates, like more sugars. There's some sugars in the xylem, not as much. The xylem is just mostly the nutrients. But to see those fluctuations between the xylem and the phloem is just showing how it's truly moving in the plant. But if farmers just want a total amount of what's in the leaf, then that's a tissue. So it's constantly this total amount in the plant and the soil to what are we working with? Like what other dynamics are at play to show how these nutrients are truly moving in both the soil and the sap. So that's where like the science, nobody's wrong. It's just understanding these different dynamics and how they fit together.
Yeah, it seems to me that the if I can make a simple Flintstones type analogy, that if you're looking at soil tests and tissue tests, that's looking at the amount of ingredients, and then the SAP analysis might be more like the recipe and the interaction and the complex, because
Mm-hmm.
there's complexities. I mean, it's just like measuring maybe your macros going into your body, X, Y, Z is going into your body, but what does it look like when it starts mixing in the blood and your body starts
Mm-hmm.
reacting? And it's really interesting. I'm just extrapolating. I have no idea what I'm talking about, and not a scientist. I'll leave that to you. But it is interesting where you fit in, because I guess part of my question, or where I want to go with all this too, is where do we want to take it? I mean, I could see our first public session being, hey, fine tuning your recipe, and then farmers were to come along with us on a journey, and maybe we do sessions for a year. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, or 6 months or a year. It's ongoing. what will people learn? What is the biggest difference they're going to learn with what your umbrella of knowledge, as you put it?
Uh, my personal, like, what I would want out of everything is not to dismiss the testing that's currently done through the soil and tissue tests. And that's another misconception, is when another company comes in, it's, oh, she's here to replace, or she hates fertilizer and all this. So it's like, well, no, like, not necessarily. I think from the farmer's perspective, and even for agronomists, um, taking lines from my professor again, in Israel, he said, the minute you feel like you figured everything out, you are so far behind. And I think there's a level of, okay, this is what we've learned so far in terms of the testing that's being offered. But now what else can I add to that to just broaden my understanding? Because there's times life isn't perfect. There's times are going to happen in the field where you add a product, you do something, it works for one farmer and it doesn't work for another. And the tests from one side could come back looking the same. Doesn't mean they're wrong. It's just understanding a different perspective to become better farmers, better agronomists. And maybe that's why I was forced back to Canada, is to help bring this other perspective to make Canada better in ag. It's not to replace, it's just to build on the knowledge that we have currently. And the more that we can work together in that, I think the stronger we'll become, for sure. So that's what my goal is not to, it's just to educate more, but clearly it's different. Um, yeah, it's just to educate more, but not to compete.
That's a wonderful segment, and that's a wonderful place to probably wrap it up. I I'm really excited about the journey that we're going to go on, and I'm really excited to learn from you. My learning is limited. I can only take so much. I can only, contextualize or encapsulate or generalize so much, but I do find it really fascinating. I'll never be a practitioner. I consider agronomists Jedi of a different order, that I'll never yield the saber, the lightsaber of agronomy, like people like my brother or those in the field. But I'm fascinated by the art and the science of it, and I'm totally down with all this really cool science that you're doing. And I don't want to argue about elemental sulfur with you ever again, because I'm not in the business. I don't
You
care.
know, I'll
Everybody.
say I teach yearly conferences. I don't know if I'm going to do that one this year because the new instrument and the dynamics it's giving is so huge. Um, but after
You're coming
this
to
year's
Convergence.
conference,
We talked about this. You're going to come to Convergence.
after this year, I was so close. The first agronomist actually got a tear out of me. He
Oh.
emailed me after, and he had two, so one of my soil reports and another lab soil report right side by side. And he emailed me and he's like, hey, based off of these interactions and what's going on with your soil test, the form of the nutrient, how it's moving in your test from a total, I think we should add this to trigger that. And I'm like, yes, like, yes.
You're getting it.
Finally, it took like 7 years, but yes. If, oh man, if every farmer or agronomist could do that instead of, we just cut back to 20 pounds versus 30 pounds.
Well, and it's kind of funny because there's probably some constant in nature about it takes 7 years as an entrepreneur to just get past the doggy paddle.
Yeah.
Well, amazing story. And I still have so many questions, but we'll talk about it. I'll get it all out of you eventually and we'll write you a book. Or part of what I dream of in the mastermind over time is creating coffee table books or volumes of tomes of knowledge, or chat, no, I don't want to say chat bots. That's a really reductive sounding thing, but putting all of your knowledge into AI in a way that people can like interact with it and synthesize it. Ask Melissa anything in the field kind of thing, or Greg Pattison or whoever. But yeah, we've got more collaborations to do. I'm dreaming of doing a public session for people and agronomists to learn from you, and then yeah, going long form, nuts and bolts in a series, and the mastermind. It's super exciting, a huge honor to shine a light on people who you've got so much talent and so much to share with the world, and that probably is the reason that you're back here in Canada against your will, hostage.
It's like
The Canadian prison.
I had the privilege of driving John Kemp in the car for 2 hours from
Mm.
Iowa back to Minneapolis. And he legit asked me, there's two people that want a location in the States for future analytics.
Nice.
But he legit asked me, he's like, so when are you moving back to Israel? I'm like, you know what? If I could leave today, I would.
Well, I'm
But
glad you can't.
the
Although,
farmers and you guys have kind of like I started it here, so I may as well finish it.
well, you never know too what will happen, and maybe that's a possibility. But you've got to establish future analytics here and maybe a few other locations, and then you go worldwide and you go back to Israel.
Hmm. And then some of you guys can join me, and then you'll
Yeah, I
see
would
what I
like to
mean.
visit and see what you mean. Um, it would be fascinating. It would be really fascinating, and I hold the Jewish culture and their acumen and the things that they've achieved in very high regard as far as being a successful survivors. You know, lots of
Hmm.
historical adversity there, and the story's really being written right now. I mean, world events are just wild, and I wish I had more perspective on that. Because it's so boring here in Canada, relatively speaking. But thank God, and I have some Ukrainians living right across the street. And I mean, I went to my daughter's career fair grad, and they're sitting right there as a family, and they are living in peaceful circumstances where they don't have those neighborly schisms. But over in those parts of the world, there's ancient tribal things going on that we can't understand. We can't even I can't I don't know the Russians and Ukrainians and Israelis and the Palestinians. Like here in Canada, I don't think we have our differences, but it hasn't been accelerated by violence. And I mean, who can say it unless you have a perspective or you lived it or right?
And I think a huge part of it is the people. I think the people make a country.
Absolutely.
Um, there's that sense of connected relationships and people within Israel. And I think that's what I loved. I loved the fact that literally everything shuts down Friday. There's no cars, no stores are open. And
Mm.
the kids that are in the army, they are everybody calls. Like if there's a son in the army, he calls his family, they say Shabbat Shalom to everybody on Friday night, whether they're gone or not. And there's that unity. And yes, there's some even in Ukraine. And that was the neat part of being in Ukraine, where there's people that come, no judgment on them. If they don't want to live in those circumstances, that's fine. But Israel is also in that category where it's hard, but most of them do stay. And there's something that has to be spoken with a true native person from, let's say, Israel or Ukraine. They are so connected to that country that it should be admired. Like they will go through whatever, like
Yeah.
to just make it happen. And I think that builds character. I think it builds character in a person where I don't care how hard life gets, you push through it. And it not just push through with the work, you push through by you come closer to those people around you because you're the culture. You formed that country. And to have that unity together, I think that's what's special. And when I felt it in Ukraine, like there's some diehard, no, it doesn't matter. We are going to make it work. We're going to make it work in Ukraine. Whereas here, we don't have to be that way.
No,
We
no.
You can just wake up and come to work and And that's why there's no closing of stores. There's no Shabbat dinners here. There's no unity, you know, and that the family unit in Israel is huge. And I think I have very, very high respect for that above anything.
I think we're spoiled here geographically as a bit of an island, and those countries that are forced to, fight it out for their borders in a very busy part of the world in a way that,
Mm-hmm.
surrounded by others. It's a different
Mm-hmm.
dynamic. But, now that Alberta is going to separate, maybe it's an opportunity for you guys to shut everything down on Friday nights.
No.
You think Danielle What's Her Nothing's going to shut everything down
Not
on
gonna
Friday nights
happen.
now?
It's
It's
not
all good.
gonna happen.
Well, we got
It's
Wob
all
Canoe.
just
Wob
it's
Canoe is
all
going
just
over
because
there and getting
we're
everything.
bored and we'll try and think of something because we're bored.
It was so funny. I was talking to a good friend of mine, a farmer by the name of John Kodlak, and I was like, "Can you believe the only politician who's making any sense right now is Wob Canoe?" Comes over from Manitoba, and he's actually sounding pretty lucid. I don't know. I mean, he sounded pretty good, I don't know all policies and behind the scenes or whatever. It's hard to tell, but I do believe in unity too, and I totally get where Alberta's coming from. I really, really, really do. But I was also over in Ireland when they were talking Brexit and right before Brexit. And we were at the plowing where there's 50,000 people or no, 150,000 people at this 3-day outdoor trade show for farmers. And a lot of the talk was, well, what's going to happen with Brexit? And at the end of the day, nobody knew. And there was a lot of
Mm,
negative ramifications from it. And I think they were trying to solve some other issues with Brexit, but then the secondary order consequences. And it is interesting how, geopolitically, a lot of the world order that we've had since the Second World War has been breaking down, much like Peter Zehan says. I don't know if you're a fan, but lots is changing. But I did want to catch up with you after the show, too, to talk about John Kempf. And I've got a bunch of ideas now after we talked, as I knew I would. But we could go on forever. But I do have
mhm.
another meeting coming up. And, um, I think even though it might feel like we're being cut short, we are going to do a public briefing for folks to come on and hear about what you offer, and then we're going to talk more in the mastermind. So I'm really excited and honored that first of all that you joined the mastermind. When I saw you join, I'm like, wow. I mean, Melissa's in the club, and I'm honored. She's giving me
Shit.
29 bucks a month US. I'm like, wow. That I was like, oh man, like you should be teaching, not a student. But that was, you're humble enough to be like, oh, I heard about this. And but the reality is that like anybody who's in the business should be listening to Greg Patterson. Um,
Well, and it's because I have respect for him. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for him and what he's done. I actually think he's had a harder road.
oh yeah,
And
no.
it's neat because the connections that he's made, we're also seeing from our end. But because the approach on the chemistry is a bit different, in my opinion, it's easier. He's had a harder road where he's found the same connections, but through different means. But
Mhm.
I think it's fascinating how two different approaches to a soil test can come to the same conclusions. Okay, we have this, but now let's bring in this factor. And then he solidifies that. Now let's bring in that factor. And I think the more an agronomist or farmers start to see what Greg is showing to what I'm presenting, and the more we grow, I think it's fascinating to say, okay, this worked here, it combines with that, which made that better. And I think a lot more of those connections need to be made to make agronomy better in Canada.
It is my dream to capture the knowledge of some of these folks and be able to, package it up for posterity, and having Ryan Evans in there too. I mean, everything that he
Mm-hmm.
shared with us is going to live forever in one
Mm-hmm.
way or another. And you know, it's actually a real labor of love. And of all the things that I'm doing, sometimes I feel like the mastermind is going to be one of the best ever things that I've ever done as far as just capturing knowledge like that. And I mean, Greg can talk for hours at length about all these subjects, and he's just such a fountain of knowledge. I always have to stop him like mid sentence or whatever. Greg, we got a question here. Greg, like, take a breath, and he's become a good friend through the process. So I look forward to that with you, and it just makes me really proud to We got 83 members in there, and so many great agronomists, you know, so many great producers.
Yeah.
So it's been a real honor. But I got to run. I really appreciate you. We're going to catch up and do more here shortly. I'm thinking end of June, somewhere in July, maybe we'll reconvene. And I wonder too if we shouldn't do a little bit of a collaboration with John Kempf. And I've been talking with SAS Soils too about doing something. So maybe we'll get about cover crops and stuff like that. And maybe we'll get you whiz kids together.
Well, I got his personal phone number in my phone,
Okay.
so I could just pick up the phone and call him.
And he is the kind of guy who will answer at 1.5 rings and say, hello, great to hear from you. He's a wonderful, wonderful
He
guy.
is.
We've had
He
amazing
is.
conversations.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when it was him and I sitting in the car and I was driving. Like he doesn't drive.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, yeah, him and
Right.
I, and he recorded the first hour of the conversation because I was just
Very.
talking chemistry. He's like, I've heard about you. So if you don't mind, I want to record you. I'm like, I didn't think I'd be asked that by John Kemp, but go ahead. But he's a very nice
He is
guy,
someone.
very
Yeah.
calming, very just, yeah.
Yeah, we really gelled, on the spirituality and philosophy. And I listen to his podcast a lot. I haven't for a while, to be honest.
That's, I felt bad. I said, I'm sorry, I don't really listen to you. I've heard about you, but I barely listen to his podcasts.
Fair. Yeah, I haven't listened for a while, but I was really enjoying it for a long, long time. And now that I think about it, I'm a little bit off it. But I don't listen to a lot of agricultural podcasts or many in general, to be honest. It seems I'm so busy making my own content right now. But anyways, thanks a lot for coming on. I really appreciate it. Totally fascinated by your story and your talents. And I'm really looking forward to working with you, Melissa.
You bet. Me
Thanks so
too.
much. Yeah.